Alright, let's go into Max here real quick. We've got our siding applied. Everything looked great on the rendering. Let me go in and show you how to create some more materials. Remember, we want this to be V-Ray. Standard V-Ray material. So metal is something that we'll create really frequently when working in architectural stuff. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to make this roof a metal roof. So if I take the diffuse color, and it's going to be kind of like a stainless steel color. But the thing to remember with metal is that a lot of the color comes from its reflection, not necessarily from its diffuse. So in 3D, that's how we want to treat it. So we can make it kind of a dark gray, maybe there, but then make it highly reflective. Let's copy that same diffuse color and then just turn it up a little ways. And for this, we probably don't want Fresnel reflections because we want that thing to really just shine. Let's bring up our swatch so we can see what we're looking at. If we turn on our background, you'll see that it still looks like a mirror reflection, so we obviously need to turn down our glossiness. For this kind of metal, the glossiness setting is going to be pretty low. Kind of like that. Maybe even a little lower, 0.5. You can see it's really noisy, which isn't great. You can, now you don't want to do this for animations, but you can do it for still shots. If you turn on this use interpolation, and then turn up your subdivisions here to like 50, let's say. And that kind of gets rid of some of the noise. If you left it on 50 subdivisions without use interpolation, your render times would shoot through the roof. But you can set it up like this to kind of smooth out some of that noise if you're just doing a still shot. If you're doing an animation, this use interpolation will not work. It'll work, but it'll mess up your animation. So another thing that we can mess with here is the anisotropy, which I don't really know how to explain what it does, but I can show you. So this setting, if you put it, it can go between -1 and 1. So if we put it at 0.9, so it'll illustrate kind of really well what it does. You can see it kind of stretches that reflection horizontally along that sphere. So this is like if you were looking at a stainless steel backsplash behind a stove or something. Sometimes the reflection on there just goes straight up vertically. You can create that kind of effect by, now I'm rotating it 90 degrees. You see that reflection just spreads out vertically straight up that sphere now. So on this, on a roof like this, we'll have some minor anisotropy going on. Maybe a little more than that. So that's pretty good right there. That's a nice looking texture. If we go into maps, sometimes I like to put just a really subtle noise map on these. Sorry, I did that kind of fast. I went into the bump map slot, and here, instead of bitmap like we've done on other things, I clicked here and went to standard maps and clicked on noise. Noise is a procedural map. Meaning that it just runs off these settings here. So let's change our swatch to not show the end result by clicking that, and then it's just showing us our noise map. The size that we want here is probably somewhere around 60, and I just know that from doing it a lot. And leaving everything default is fine. You can see it just kind of creates this wavy noise pattern going through here, and that will just add a little bit of variation to the surface of our metal. But we want it to be very subtle, so we can't leave it at 30. If you put it at maybe 1, that will just distort those reflections ever so slightly, because when you see a metal roof, it's never perfectly smooth. So those are the kind of subtleties that you can add to your materials to add just that small amount of realism. Now another thing we could do to this is go into the reflection glossiness map and put another noise map. Let's open up that swatch. Now let's make this one really small, maybe 0.5. See those tight little, maybe even 0.1. Let's go into, here in your maps, you can go to this output, and you can enable color map. And if you're familiar with Photoshop, this is kind of like a curves editor in Photoshop. So you can add a node here, and I'm just going to try and add a little contrast to this noise map. Sort of like that. So it's basically just black and white now. Kind of got rid of all the stuff in between. We could turn down the blur, and then we can make the tiling in the Y direction sort of like that. Really small tiling, and that creates kind of the streaky look that that kind of a brushed stainless steel might have. Let's turn up the blur a little more. So this is a procedural way to do it. Another way to do it is to go online and search for those kind of maps and use the JPEG again. But this is the procedural way to do it, or one of the procedural ways. And that doesn't look that great. Let's see. Let's turn it down some. Yeah, I'm not liking the way this is working. It's not really giving me that tiling that I want. What we can do is go to Google Images, brushed metal texture. Okay, so you can see here, this is kind of giving me the nice, in fact that one right there is really nice. So you could download these images, save them into your slot there, and create a nice stainless steel looking image. That's probably a better way to do this. But you can use those basic settings to create stainless steel material. I'm going to just turn off the glossy map for now. And we can just apply this material straight to our roof, just like this. Let's rename it to metal roof. Let's make sure all our fins up here have the right material on them. Looks like they do. Okay, so that's just one more material. We can go in, and this railing will be really similar to the roof material. We can probably just take the noise map right off of that one and probably turn up the glossiness to something like that and apply that to the railing. So that's like a shiny metal rail. We already went over glass materials. It's another one that you use very frequently. So I think now we kind of know all the basics of materials, and we can just go ahead and start making the materials we want for all these different objects.